All right, Dan Cochimilio and Eric Romo here on the NorCal Sports Network, and today we're going to be talking about the San Francisco Giants trade deadline pitfalls, learning from the past. Please, Farhan, do not trade away some of your better prospects to be chasing after possible World Series run that may never happen. So let's get into it, Eric. There's a lot to discuss here. We've got some bad trades the Giants have made in the past.
Exactly. And we don't want to follow those same footsteps. Exactly, Dan.
Yeah. I mean, what comes to my mind right off the top is back in 1971, Giants traded an outfielder from their farm system by the name of George Foster.
Yep.
George Foster. They thought they had no room for him in the outfield because they had Willie Mays, Ken Henderson, and Bobby Bonds, Barry's dad. And after 71, they traded Mays the next year to the Mets. Foster was already gone, and he went on to become the MVP of the league in 1977, hit 52 homers.
Was a big part of the Big Red Machine.
Yes, and man, that was just a foolish trade. They basically got nobody. They got Frank Duffy and Vern Gishart in the deal, who did nothing for the Giants. And then I think Duffy ended up getting shipped off again in the Gaylord Perry trade, if I'm not mistaken. That wasn't a prospect trade, but Gaylord Perry was another bad trade when just coming to mind. But some other ones that come to my mind, and Zach Wheeler being traded in 2011 for
1 year of
Carlos Beltran. You know, that was the year Buster went down, and Giants felt like they had to make a move. They had coming off a World Championship season, and it just it
didn't pan out.
And Zach Wheeler is still pitching today in 2023,
and he's a good pitcher.
He's a very effective, excellent pitcher. Yes. So, any trades, other ones come to your mind as?
The one that comes to my mind, and we talk about it quite often when we get into trade deadline stuff, is when they traded Brian Reynolds, one of our top outfield prospects, for Andrew McCutchen. And then we wind up trading McCutchen at the trade deadline. So it just
that was an off-season move, but again, it was another prospect.
Yep.
Another one that comes to mind is the Giants went for AJ Pierzynski, and they traded away Francisco Liriano and Joe Nathan.
Right.
Both who went on to have really, really good careers. Pierzynski didn't pan out. He was then traded a year later to the White Sox, where he won a World Series. But, so I know sometimes you got to give up prospects. If you, my feeling is this on especially this year's Giants team, is I think this year's Giants team, 2023 version, is a playoff team. They can be a playoff team. They've got to be healthy, and we talked about that since day one. If everything goes well, they could be a playoff contender. And heck, the Dodgers are not what they used to be, so the division's up for grabs this year. But I don't want to trade away your Kyle Harrisons, Marco Lucianos, Matos, Wisenhunt, McRae, Von Brown, Reggie Crawford, Mason Black, these type of guys for a rental that might get you over the hump and into the playoffs, and then you end up getting knocked out. I mean, the odds of winning the World Series right now, FanDuel has the Giants to win the World Series at plus 3,000. So 30-1. Okay. It's not great odds. And I understand they didn't have great odds in 10, 12, and 14 when they won their titles, but just don't trade away some top guys that have the potential to really do something. And you're building something now. I'm thinking, maybe this team is kind of close to where the 2009 team was, where they won 86 games. missed the playoffs, but they were on the uprise. And then in 2010, they, won San Francisco's first World Series for the city of San Francisco. So, I don't know.
Yeah, you're going to have to balance that, that trading that prospect for a need that the team has, but that need also has, like you said, if it's a rental, you got to be careful in what you're going to be trading away, because you don't want, as you said, perfect example is the Zach Wheeler that you just mentioned. You trade Wheeler, and I understand, Giants were kind of up against it. They just came off that world championship in 2010. They want to be in it again. They needed that significant bat because you lost it with Posey going down. So I understand that, but you got to be careful. You have to weigh, who are the prospects that are quote unquote tradable within your organization and those who are going to be part of your future. So it's a tough position to be in.
I mean, I don't want to get rid of a guy like Marco Luciano or Kyle Harrison. Mm-hmm. The only exception to that would be is if you're getting somebody like a Juan Soto, right, who you have
for control
for the rest of this year and all of next year, and then maybe you can sign him. A superstar player. I mean, even doing that for Ohtani, I think would be tough, because if you don't sign him, he walks, and
right.
I mean, it works out great if some of these guys never produce. We've had Giants have had a lot of guys that were supposed to be, the next
big thing. Yeah.
And they never turned out. I remember, we couldn't wait for Christian Arroyo to come up. A couple other guys earlier than that. I mean, they were all big guys that were going to be big time, and they never did. Chris Shaw, a guy that, hey, he's got great power. This guy's going to be a 30-plus home run hitter. Never panned out. And most of the Giants picks haven't. But I think when you look at like Kyle Harrison and Marco Luciano, we were looking at this the other day. Marco Luciano had 40 hits before last night's game. I think last night what did he go?
I think he went 1 for 4. I think
1 for 3, 1 for 4. He had 40 hits. Of his first 40 hits, 11 of them are home runs.
Yeah.
It's over 25% of his hits are home runs.
His hard hit rate's up there. I don't have the numbers, but I heard it's up there.
I mean, and Marco Luciano is like 20 years old, 21 years old, whatever he is. He's so young. I mean, he'll figure it out, the guy with that kind of raw power and talent. So I'm not ready to trade him this year for just somebody that might get you into the playoffs.
Let's bring up right now what MLB Trade Rumors is showing for early July trades that are out there. As you can see, top 50 deadline trade candidates, the early July edition. So they're just, a lot of things can happen with teams depending, these next couple of weeks is going to be a make a break for a lot of these teams, whether or not who's going to be available, who's not.
Giolito's at the top.
Yep. Let me go. Went back. There we go. You got Giolito. Yep.
Yeah, he's mentioned everybody's going to be going at that's competing is going to be going after. So the White Sox are going to be able to take their best deal there.
Then you got Heimer Candelario,
baseman, yeah, and then you got number 3. Wasn't that Scott Barlow?
Barlow,
relief pitcher of the KC, and Montgomery's a guy I like with the Cardinals. Right. I think he'd be a great fit. Left-handed pitcher. Cardinals are definitely going to be selling. I know he's not on this list, but a guy that I might trade one of my better prospects, not my top couple of prospects, but maybe I look at a Reggie Crawford or a couple guys in that range for a Paul Goldschmidt. I know he's not on the Emma.
Yeah, I noticed that.
Goldschmidt would do something completely different for the Giants.
Right.
You could put him at first base every day, and you can move Lamont Wade to the outfield or DH Wade when you're facing a righty. Goldschmidt just would solidify the Giants' lineup.
Middle of the order. Yeah.
Middle of the order. It would just change the whole structure of 1 through 9, because now you've got a legit bat in there. And, hopefully, you can get Conforto going so that he could be behind Goldschmidt, and Goldschmidt would still get some protection. Yeah. So, and I think Conforto has it in him. He's a guy that, has shown really some good streaks of hitting the ball hard and getting on base, but the injuries kind of knock him out a little bit here and there. A couple times he's been out of the lineup this year. So I think that would be a guy that, okay, I'm not going to trade Harrison or Luciano for him, but the Giants have some outfield depth in the minor leagues. Besides the guys they have up, you figure looking forward, you've got Sable, who can be out there in the outfield. You got Matos. Those are two young guys, right?
Right.
Yaz is 32. We don't know how much longer if he's part of the, the future. He's definitely here for the next probably year or two at least. But they've got guys coming up like Von Brown. Will Clark's really high on, and Kyle Haynes loves Von Brown. You've got also in the outfield, you've got the young kid Grant McCray, who's on his way up. He's stealing bases. He's starting to hit for some power. Needs to get the average up a little bit, but he's at Eugene, so he's tracking to be here within 1 to 2 years. So your outfield depth, you probably could. You got Hario Pomerez, who's also a better prospect. Don't forget about Elliot Ramos, who's only 23.
Right.
I mean, I don't know if the Giants have given up on Elliot Ramos. I certainly have not. I think Ramos is a guy that's got all the tools to be a 2020 guy in the majors. Hit 20 home runs, steal 20 bases. He just needs to develop, and he's had so many, and the Giants really haven't given him a shot. He's had 46 lifetime major league at bats, and he hasn't done much at the major leagues. He's hitting below 200, but come on, 46 at bats. There's no chance when you're called up for a couple of days, you go back down, and then, you got to give these guys a shot. So, I mean, the Giants outfield, and also let's not forget Wade Meckler, who's a hitting machine right now.
Yes, he is.
Wade Meckler has advanced. He was hitting the high 300s in
high A
at Eugene, and took it with him to Richmond at AA, and has been flirting with 400 at Richmond. So the outfielders, there's some depth there. I've named 5 or 6 right there. Pitching seems to be a strength too.
How about this? And I'm pretty sure this is probably going to be asked a lot if the Giants are going to make a trade. Would you be okay with them trading Joey Bart? Because he's probably going to be one of their trade fodder, I guess you would say.
I look at it this way, Eric. I'm not trading Joey Bart just for the sake of trading him and moving on from him to get a low-level prospect. He was the number 2 pick in the entire draft in 2018. I believe Joey could be a really good major league player. He just needs to get a chance. Here's my thought on Joey Bart. If you can get somebody valuable that could really help the club, or is a guy that's in AAA and is really doing well at AAA that can be called up and help the club, I would be willing to do that. But if you're going to give me a guy that's not a top prospect and he's just down the line and you're just trading guys to trade him and give him a fresh start, I'm not for that. I think Joey Bart has the potential to be a guy that can hit 20 plus home runs. I think he had a lot of pressure coming to the club in 2020. He was kind of pushed up too early. He wasn't ready, but the shortened season, Buster opted out. And so Bart, they didn't have anybody. So they put Bart, and then Buster came and played in 21.
Right.
And then he, retires kind of unexpectedly, and the organization's kind of caught off guard, I think. And in 22, Bart is handed the catcher's job last year, and he really wasn't ready for it.
He scuffled. Yeah, he scuffled.
A lot of pressure. Now you got Patrick Bailey, who appears to be the catcher. I would bring up Joey Bart at some point and have him be the backup catcher and let him play first base when Lamont Wade is, sitting when you're platooning. Yeah. And let Joey Bart see what Joey Bart can do at first base and let him catch once, twice a week. Give Bailey a break, and that gives you better defense behind the plate. And then Sable is your third catcher option. It gives the club a lot of options because now you've got guys that can play different positions. Bart can play first base. Sable can play the outfield. He can catch. He can also play first base. It allows you in the playoffs, if you make the playoffs, to do some certain things, and you really can get by with carrying those guys as extra pinch hitters. And if you need to change catching, let's say your situation, you got Jock Peterson, let's say, is on your bench, and Bailey spots up, and you really, think this is a big spot for Jock. Now you can put Bart behind the plate,
right.
And you don't
lose the defense.
Lot. Yeah. You don't lose a lot on defense. So,
it's going to be interesting. I mean, it's this specific trade deadline. It's going to be a seller's market. The teams that are going to be selling know that there's going to be a bunch of teams knocking on their door, especially with starting pitching. We saw that on the list. You had Marcus Giolito. Number 6 was Stroman.
Or you mean 8, Marcus Stroman and Lucas Giolito, yeah.
Are you there? Yeah. There you go. And then number 8 was Shane Bieber. So all those guys, they're gonna be commanding some high prices. So and that's something that the Giants need to kind of take stock in. If you're going to get someone that's going to be for the future, let's do it then, make that trade. But if it's only, like you said, if it's for a rental, let's be careful in who we decide to give up if it's a rental, because you don't want to set the organizational back in the future for the present.
Yeah, Jordan Montgomery, I believe, is a free agent after this year. I think Kyle Harrison is one of the best options as far as getting a pitcher at the deadline. I don't see a lot of pitchers other than maybe Stroman and Montgomery. I'm not even sure if Shane Bieber is that much better than Kyle Harrison. Kyle Harrison has strikeout stuff at the major league level. He just needs to get better command. And I think a lot of his command issues have been just off the plate that might be called strikes up here, because in AAA, they've got that robo umpire.
Robo umps, yeah.
And so if it's just off the zone, that's getting called a ball, where we see at the major league level, that little imaginary box we see on our TV screens, pitches are outside that box constantly that are getting called strikes.
Yeah, and again, that comes to the strength of Bailey, because he's a great framer, and he could steal some strikes for Harrison when he comes
Absolutely. Up. So, I mean, I think your rotation for playoffs right now is Webb and Cobb and Harrison, probably in that third slot or fourth. And, maybe they need to find somebody that, I think what they're really missing is an ace. Now, if you can give me an ace like a Corbin Burns that's controllable, that's not a free agent, not a rental, if you could give me somebody like that, or if you want to give me a Max Scherzer for nothing because you'll take on the contract, but I'm not trading Harrison for a Burns or anything like that. I might trade lower level prospect a little further down the line, maybe a Reggie Crawford and
more of them. It would just be
more of them, quantity, like a Reggie Crawford and a Mason Black, who I think is going to be really good. But if you're going to get a Corbin Burns, you're going to have to pay up.
You're going to have to pay,
and you may have to give up, a Von Brown or something like that. But I think the Giants really need to be cautious as we wrap this up. I think be cautious. Don't do no knee-jerk reaction because somebody is you're getting outbid and you're gonna I'll throw in Luciano, will you, or Harrison to give me that pitcher. I think that would be a mistake. I think the Giants are building something right now. I think we're starting to see keep your best prospects and hang on to those guys, because the Giants are getting really, really close to being not just good for a year, but being good for 5 to 8 years. And that's what you want. You want to be a playoff team 5 to 7, 8 years consecutive. Look at the Dodgers, 10 straight years.
Yep.
Giants need to be at that level with the revenue they have and the ballpark they have and the fan base that they have.
Absolutely. And if you guys enjoyed this, put some comments down below. Tell us what you think. What do you think the Giants should do at the trade deadline? You know, what should they avoid? What should they go after? Should they gamble? Should they put all their eggs in one basket? You know, or stay the course and keep these guys for the future? I'm talking about the prospects.
Absolutely. Yeah. And also, if you like this show, please hit the like button and subscribe if you're not a subscriber. We bring you Giants content all season long, and we're here live after every Giants game. So, NorCal Sports Network. Tell your friends about it, like and subscribe, and thanks for listening, and thanks for watching. Everybody have a great one.
Take care.